Olé! It's showtime!
Now it's time for the Disney View podcast. Please move across your car to make room for everyone. Our podcast will begin momentarily. Join Dave as he makes his Grand Circle tour around the Walt Disney World Resort. Dave is a dreamer and an engineer who enjoys the magic and wonder of it all, but understands Disney's place in history and respects the legacy that's been left. Come along and hear Dave's thoughts about Walt Disney World and see it through Dave's eyes.
Please stand clear of the podcaster. Por favor, manténganse alejado del David.
And now, here's your host.
Hey everyone, it's Dave. Welcome to another edition of Dave's Disney View podcast. Today's podcast has a guest, and I always love having guests on my show because it's fun to talk about Disney with other people. He's Carl Trent, and he is the publisher of WDW Magazine, among other things that you'll hear about as we go through our discussion today. So Carl, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. It's good to be here.
Oh, great. So you have a long history. You've done a lot of different things. You kind of have some different dalliances when it comes to the world of Disney. You've written the Dad's Guide to WDW, among other things, and got an extensive background with Disney World.
That's correct. I am all Disney all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit, and you were saying you spend many hours a day kind of fixated on Disney and talking about it, thinking about it, and writing about it, of course.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
And it might as well be you, right?
That's exactly right.
There's something fun to be said about having the Disney experience and having it kind of cut to your soul, if you will, and just be a part of who you are, and just enjoying it for what it's worth. There's a certain thrill in that. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, and it really, your friends, you do what for a living now?
Yeah, exactly. Now, you have an unusual thing going on here because you live kind of far away from Disney World. You live in Oklahoma, right?
That's correct. Boomer Sooner.
There you go. So it's interesting that you become such a Disney World fan being so far away. Not that people aren't fans other places, but being the prolific fan that you are is kind of interesting. So can you tell me a little bit about how you became a fan of Disney?
Well, I've always been a fan of Disney. When I was a little kid, my grandma loved the idea of Disneyland, and she would bring my sister and I out to California, and we'd go to Disneyland with Grandma. And some of my earliest memories are getting sick on the teacups with my sister, spinning madly and laughing her head off. But I've always had this love of Disney from the start. My grandma instilled it in me, my mother. My high school reports were all on Walt Disney. It's just always been a passion of mine. And as I grew older, living in Oklahoma is kind of a long ways from either Disney, but I kept up with it. I would read about everything I could about the Disney company and the parks. And 1980, I got married. My wife and I, honeymoon, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Disney World.
Of course.
And since then, we've been going every few years until the last few years. Then we've been going a little more often. But it's always been my passion, my love. I grew up in the Rec Art Disney parks, whatever they were called,
those old user groups and message boards,
and reading the unofficial guide cover to cover 3 or 4 times a year, and always waiting for the new one to come out. And that was my passion, and the way I got started.
That's cool. That's really neat. And it's neat to hear. I always like those stories about family being involved, and like a grandmother. That's kind of how it started with me too. My grandparents were really big Disney fans. We went to Walt Disney World a lot. It's always neat to hear that piece to it. That it's it's sort of that traditional thing in your family, and it's not just it's something that you grew to love, right?
Absolutely.
Not that you didn't love it the first time you were there, but you kind of grow to appreciate it in a different way.
The teacups were the only part I didn't love, and my sister.
I was going to say you blame your sister for that because it's always a sibling problem. Yeah, that's absolutely. So very cool, and you get to Disney World fairly frequently, as I understand it, and still can kind of keep up with everything that's going on.
Yep. I get there now 3 to 4 times a year.
That's impressive, considering you're in Oklahoma. That's it's not a long trip certainly by any stretch, and it's not like going to Europe, but it's a bit of a trip, I'm sure, a bit of a trek.
Absolutely, yeah. It's about 5 hours in a plane. So.
Wow, that's far enough. Thank you. That's about how far it is from me in South Florida to get out to, let's say, California. So I get it. It's if I want to go to Disneyland, that's what it takes for me. But that's cool, and it's really neat. So you've got a magazine out there, the WDW Magazine. That's a pretty cool magazine, and I just like to point people to it. It's WDW-magazine.com. You can go check it out. But it's a really beautiful publication that you put out, and some interesting articles. But I think the pictures are what really sells it. It's the photos you've got in there that really, they kind of stand out. They have a certain beauty to them about Disney World and kind of showing it off in an elegant way.
We like to say it's almost like being there. Because we have one of the things, I'm a very visual person. I love beautiful pictures. And when I started Dad's Guide, that's what I started with. The idea is I would go to the best photographers I could find, ask them if I could use their pictures, and just kind of center everything around the beautiful pictures. And so when we started the magazine, that was kind of the idea. We have great information, we have good articles, we have videos, but kind of the stars of the show are the pictures. We developed a group of 7 photographers that we highlight their pictures because I kind of think they're the best that I can find out there, and that have big range of Disney World pictures. So that's just it's my passion to showcase Walt Disney World in the best light, and I think the photography that we use is just unmatched.
And I think that's really neat because I've looked at several of the other magazines, and not to denigrate any of them because they're all good in their own way. Everybody's got some neat articles and some interesting perspective on it, but this one just stands out because the pictures just really kind of call to me in a way. You look at them and there's the artistic nature of them that really kind of stands out, right? It's neat the way they do that. Your photographers are great that way.
Yeah. They're really good.
Excellent. I'm not much. I used to take a lot of pictures when I was younger. I'm not so much a photographer now, but I remember when I was younger, I used to go around and take pictures at Disney World, and some of them I still have around, and I look at them and I go, wow, I know what I was trying to capture here. I know I didn't quite get it the way I wanted it, but the camera technology didn't exist the way I wanted it to at the time, or at least I couldn't afford it at the time I was doing it. And you look at that and you go, I see what I was trying to do. I wonder if I could recapture that. And then I see something you've done, or one of your photographers has done, and I go, you've captured it. You captured that moment where you kind of see it and you go, I can visualize what it was. There's something in the foreground and something interesting in the background, or the colors kind of speak out, and it's just really neat. Really appreciate that.
We're really proud of our photographs. We're really proud of the magazine. It's the best out there.
Very cool. And not that you're humble about it or anything. Not to be modest.
Yeah, we have a great team.
No,
I don't do it all by far. I just kind of am the ringleader. Very cool.
And I understand there's sort of there's something else that's coming out soon. That's a new book. That's the best of WDW.
Actually, it's out. We have started selling it. We started shipping about 2 weeks ago. The best of WDW is Volume 1, by the way, is a photo tour of the theme parks at Walt Disney World. And we've taken those pictures from those photographers and we put them into a photo book, a coffee table book. It's a 120-page book. It's got just over 200 pictures in it. And literally, it's just beautiful. It is incredible. Starts out with the cover. The cover is a beautiful picture of Cinderella Castle with the trees at night lit. How beautiful Cinderella Castle is. The little stream running up into Cinderella Castle and the castle reflecting off the stream. And what we've done is we've taken the trees and we've sculpted them to where they're embossed and they have some feel to them, and it just makes the cover just stand out. And from there on, every page you turn, an incredible picture of Walt Disney World Tour, 3 pictures in some cases. Just a beautiful, all from starting at the Magic Kingdom, starting at Main Street, going around the park, going into Epcot, going into Hollywood Studios, and then into Animal Kingdom, and just a tour right through the 4 parks, through all the rides, all the attractions, the shows, the fireworks. It's just really stunning photography.
And I'm amazed. I'm taking a look at the website right now because there's a few sample pictures that are shown on there, and I'm amazed at some of the perspectives that you take too. Like there's one here of Big Thunder Mountain that's sort of an unusual perspective of the attraction. You don't often see a picture quite from this angle, and it's kind of neat because it gives it a little different perspective.
Yeah, and there's one in there of the castle from Tom Sawyer Island that catches people's eye. Where did they take that picture? Where was that? That's just photoshopped together. No, that's a picture from Tom Sawyer Island. From Harper's Mill, you can see the mill on the left. You can see the castle, and it's sunrise. It's just a really, really cool picture. But I mean, they're all the way through. They're just some amazing photos. People tell us that their kids every night want to read the book. Well, I want to. Let's do that again tonight, Daddy. Let's do that again tonight.
That's cool.
So it's really a great little book. You can pick it up at thebestofwdw.com. Put dashes between all the words. the-best-of-wdw.com. And they're on sale there. We did a Kickstarter program on it this summer. We were able to raise just over $61,000 on the Kickstarter program we did this summer. So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing that this summer.
That's really cool. I did notice that you had a Kickstarter program, and I think that's a really cool idea to kind of get it started for yourself and get some interest and get people going into it a little bit. That's kind of clever. How'd you decide to go that route? What took you down that path?
Well, the printing was going to be pretty expensive to print the books, so we needed to raise some money before we got started, and to do kind of a proof of concept. Was there really the desire out there for the book? So we decided before we started too deep into it that we'd do a Kickstarter program on it. We were pretty sure it would go pretty well, but you always have those doubts, and so I decided we'd do a Kickstarter program on it, and we set it up. And the month of June, we ran the Kickstarter program. We had over 1,200 backers in our program, and just couldn't have gone much better.
That's great, and that's the thing. I think there's a lot of fans of Disney out there in Walt Disney World, and they get interested in things, and sometimes you just have to catch their attention in the right way. And certainly, having something as beautiful as this and kind of catching their attention and the idea of we got to get it published, you captured their imagination a little bit, and I can understand why people would kick in a little bit to kind of get it started, kick-start it, as they say. Yeah. But I think that's really cool, and I'm impressed by how you took that approach. I haven't heard about many people doing that, at least in the Disney space. I've heard about it with other things, and I thought that was a clever invention on your part.
Well, thank you. I am kind of unique in the Disney space.
So I got to ask you a couple of Disney-related questions.
Sure.
There are 4 parks at Walt Disney World. Do you have a favorite?
Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
The original.
Yeah,
It's the best.
I'm with you there. I just, I just have to ask the questions. I don't think of these questions. I just read them off a list. How about a favorite attraction? Do you have a favorite attraction?
My favorite attraction is Rock and Roller Coaster.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Mine's teacups. I'm kidding.
I can't even watch my family ride the teacups.
Funny how that goes, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I have issues with different things related to roller coasters and some movement and things that really just make me kind of uncomfortable. So I don't do many roller coasters, but for whatever reason, the teacups don't bother me. They never have. It's just one of those strange things with me.
Well, that's why Rock and Roller Coaster is so strange to me. I can't even ride the carousel.
Really?
But I love riding Rock and Roller Coaster.
Huh. Isn't that funny? That's really amazing. But then again, that's why Disney is so special. It's got something for everyone. You can always find something that you want to do and be involved in. So, kind of turning our attention to upcoming things. Are you excited about the new innovations that are coming, or new things that are coming to, especially Hollywood Studios and Star Wars Land and that kind of stuff?
I am, and I have some reticence. I think the big things are great. I love the big things that Disney does, but I got to go to Disneyland again for the first time since back when my sister made me sick this summer.
Okay.
And I think some of the things that they're kind of missing at Disney World over Disneyland is some of those small little rides.
Yes.
That you go to Fantasyland at Disneyland and it's all packed with Mr. Toad and Peter Pan and all those old dark rides that they've taken out of Disney World. And at Disneyland, there are 71 rides or something in 160 acres. And at Disney World, there's like 69 rides in 4 parks and 23,000 acres. And I see them doing that same thing with the new lands that they're building. 1 or 2 rides instead of, 1 headliner and 8 little, neat little, cool little kitty, not always kitty, but just little fun rides. The things that made Walt special. That he came up with those cool little cheap little rides that are timeless and classic, and you don't see that now with all the headliner rides and all the headliner lands, and it's just like they're in a spending war with Universal to see who can spend the most, instead of doing things that would attract a whole new generation of people to love Disney instead of just with the big stuff. I think they kind of miss a little bit there, but yes, back to. Yeah, I can't wait to go to Star Wars Land and Pixar Land and even Avatar Land.
No, you mentioned something interesting, and I'm with you, because I think the whole thing is pretty exciting. What's coming? I think there's some really interesting things, and I've learned that you can't really live in the past, and it's unfortunate that things change in some ways and we lose some of history, but that's progress for you. I feel kind of I had that mixed emotion about a lot of these little things that kind of disappear. When they took away Center Street in the Magic Kingdom on Main Street, that irritated me to no end. But I worked in the Emporium for a long time, so it was that was kind of special to me. And I was like, you're taking away something there. So those kinds of things, I totally get that. But I am excited to see what they do with some of the properties that they own and some of the things they're trying to accomplish. And I'm really fascinated. I want to see where it goes. Kind of see how it nets out.
I'm not so much about bring back Mr. Toad or anything like that. In Bugs Land at Disneyland, they've got like 6 little, of the short minute and a half long rides that the kids ride on, and those kind of little things, those little touches that you don't have in Florida, that you've got out in California, that I think would, 1 or 2 big rides, that's great, but if you've got 1 big ride and 8 little rides, that might be better. Gotcha.
It just makes me be nostalgic for just a moment. You mentioned Mr. Toad, and I miss Mr. Toad. Do you have a ride you miss? Something they've taken out that you miss more than others? It's a tough one, I know. I asked the tough question.
It's a tough one because most of my favorites are still there. Carousel of Progress.
There you go. Yeah.
The Tomorrowland Transit Authority. The one I probably miss the most is Mission to Mars. Or the moon, as it was when I first went to Disneyland, where Stitch is now.
Yep, there you go. That's a good one, actually. That was an interesting ride. It kind of had a neat history to it, and the way that they came up with the idea and kind of how they made it work. Mm-hmm. Given that we were so gung ho on going to the moon and then so gung ho on going to Mars, it kind of made it really interesting and made it fascinating in a way. And they did something that kind of led you down a path of almost believing that maybe you were leaving the theme parks and going up into space. Almost.
Well, back then, when all we had was black and white TV. Well, probably not by the time, not by 1980, but by the 80s, we're still kind of a little technologically challenged, and it was still kind of cool to ride in that. Now we go over to Mission Space and get kind of the real experience.
Right, it's a much different experience. And for the record, the one that I missed the most is Horizons over in Epcot.
Yep.
That was one that just captured me. I love that attraction. And
maybe Cranium Command. Cranium Command is one. Yeah.
That's another good one, actually. Yeah, I really like that one. It's sad to see the whole MetLife Pavilion sitting there, just Wonders of Life, just sitting there doing nothing.
I shake my head every time I walk by there.
Yeah, I'll have to go up to the Food and Wine Fest and just go in there because that's where the festival welcome center is, and just go in just because I can. And just.
I thought I heard they're only doing that on the weekends this year.
Oh, is it really only on the weekends? Interesting. Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe that's the case. Darn it. Have to plan my days accordingly. But it's really interesting. I mean, things change and evolve, but there's still the love and the admiration for the park and what Walt created there in the first place. Sort of this interesting thing. I have mixed emotions about all the changes that are going on. There's so many things happening at Walt Disney World. It's getting bigger and bigger, and more Vacation Club properties and more things, and it's changed so dramatically. I can't really tell what it is.
Yeah, and now there's bungalows out in the water.
Yeah, exactly. Those are kind of interesting too.
Those are kind of cool. Kind of expensive, but kind of cool.
Yeah, kind of expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
They moved past my price range all of a sudden. It's funny how that goes. Remember when I used to be able to stay at the Contemporary for some small amount of money, and not anymore.
Yeah.
But that's again, that's history, so it's okay. It is what it is.
Progress, as they would say.
Very good. Yes, progress. But that's cool. I always like talking to people who have that shared passion for Disney and kind of what it is. And I was just when I heard about your book that you were coming out with, I was like, wow, that's really neat. I want to talk to you about it a little bit. I just think it's such a neat idea. To have a coffee table book that shows off the beauty in that way.
Right. We kind of started this last year.
Okay.
One of the photographers last summer, he said, "Why don't we do a coffee table book?" And I have a little background in the printing business. When I came out of high school, I was working in print shops and ran print shops, so I had a little idea about what went into that. And I said, well, let's try something a little smaller first. So last year we did a calendar, a Walt Disney World calendar. And just to kind of test the market and see if we could sell some and see if we could generate some interest. And we sold 4,500 calendars last year.
Pretty good. Yeah,
pretty good. A pretty good calendar. So that was kind of our first foray into to paper instead of the magazine is digital. The first foray we did into paper. So that's kind of where the idea came for the book to start it. And so about the first of the year we started, well, it's probably earlier than that, probably November, we started gathering pictures. The photographers, they probably submitted 5,000 pictures, and I spent months going page by page, picture, which one are we going to use on this page, probably looked at those 5,000 pictures 100 times, over 6 months, 6-8 months, picking out just the best of the best of the best.
That's pretty cool. And I'm sure it was, while it was painstaking and kind of challenging to pick the best ones, I'm sure it was kind of fun in its own way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
I don't do things that aren't fun.
No, of course not. Why would you? Why waste your time on something that's not fun?
Life's too short.
Exactly. That's why I started doing this podcast. Same basic idea. It was like I wanted to have my hands in something and be talking about Disney. So here we go. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And I got a lot of ability to talk. So yeah, that's the way it goes. But it's cool. So I would definitely recommend checking out the book and the magazine too, as long as you're at it. Go take a look. I'll put a link to both in my show notes page over at DisneyWorldPodcast.net, so you can take a look and see what the story is on that, and get the URLs and go check them out. I highly recommend, if you don't buy the book or the magazine, just take a look at the pictures that they have on the sites. It's really impressive, and it's worth spending a few minutes just to kind of take it in, and then you'll go, oh, I really want this book.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
It's, I had that moment when I was looking at it. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I was totally impressed. You hear about something and you go, okay, yeah, a coffee table book about Disney World, great. And then you go, oh, but really fantastic photography that really kind of sells it in a way that really makes it something more.
And what's really been heartening to us is the response we've gotten. With the Kickstarter, we built it up pretty good. It was beautiful. It's going to be great. And people, we did a video. We did updates. We talked about it a lot. And then people have started to get the books. And they said, I had pretty high hopes for this. I expected a lot from this. Wow. This is so much better. This is just awesome. This is just so much better than anything I could imagine. Even our photographers got it and said, oh my goodness. It's just, the printer we used has been in business in Cincinnati for over 100 years. And they've printed millions of dollars. They print millions of dollars with printing every year. And the guy is a big Disney nut. But he said this is the best thing we have ever printed.
That's
ever.
Cool. That's really cool.
Over 100 years.
That's really amazing. That's a nice testament to what it is. And I will tell you, listeners out there, that there's something to be said for the printed copy of a picture. Digital pictures are nice. I don't want to downplay them because they can be beautiful. But something about the printed picture and the way that it can bring the contrast to light, it really is kind of neat. There's something to be said for that, and having it in your hands. So that's one of those things that I enjoy a lot. Is just having a physical copy of something.
And the thing about printing is you have to do it well. Mm-hmm. And we went all out. We picked the best papers, the papers for color, for popping colors, high quality printing done by long professionals. And I spent a week in Cincinnati while we were printing, going over every sheet as it came off and looking at them and making sure that everything was just perfect. And it just couldn't be better. And that quality is what separates good from just okay. I mean, it's really, really high quality.
That's great. That's a really neat thing. You stop and think about that. The printing process is almost a lost art in this country, and that's unfortunate. But I'm glad that there's still printing shops that do it and do it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure spending a week in Cincinnati, looking at pictures of Disney World probably wasn't a bad thing either.
It was All-Star Week, and the All-Star game was in Cincinnati.
Oh, gee, that's terrible.
And we didn't get to go.
But you got to experience the moment anyway.
We did go down to the park, and we had to get back to look at some printing. But we did go down to the park and see. We basically did everything but walk in the park. We went to the gift shop, which is right outside. Cool. Went down and enjoyed some of the downtown stuff that was going on. So it was really cool.
That is pretty cool. Just overall, just the experience of being there at that time, I'm sure was really neat.
It was.
I've been in other cities that have had the All-Star game going on, and it's just a remarkable thing. The specter of that. It's almost Disney-like in a way, in the way they build it up and sort of the feeling of it a little bit.
Right.
It's really neat. Very cool. So the book is the Best of WDW, Volume 1. It's available now.
Volume 1, because Volume 2, which will come out in 2016, we hope, is going to be the hotels.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Very neat.
We've got like 10 volumes planned. So.
Oh, well, excellent. Why wouldn't you have 10 volumes planned if you've got a great product, right?
That's right.
You can always talk about Disney.
Yeah.
Very cool. Carl, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show and talking about Disney. It's always a pleasure to have another Disney fan on.
Thank you, David.
All right. And have a great afternoon, everyone. And remember, if we can dream it, we can certainly do it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Disney View podcast. We hope you had a pleasant stay and arrive home safely. Please remain seated until your ride vehicle stops completely. Then, gather your personal belongings and step out onto the moving platform. And yes, I know it went by so quickly, but don't worry. One of the nice things about traveling on this podcast is that the journey is just beginning. Show notes are available on DisneyWorldPodcast.net. While there, please check out some of our affiliates. You'll also find links to Dave's iPhone and iPad apps. There's an app for pin trading, one for finding hidden Mickeys, and an app for finding and tracking pressed pennies around the Walt Disney World Resort. And you never know just what Dave is working on next. If you have questions, feel free to drop Dave an email at davesdisneyview@gmail.com. Original music you're hearing in this podcast is Oslo Doom by Gilberto Gil. Of course, this is a fan podcast and in no way affiliated with the Walt Disney Company.
que lá se chama Thor, o filho do